Hello, and thank you for joining us for Hello Mayor. I'm City of Las Vegas Mayor Carolyn Goodman. The school year is in full swing, and we as a community have already faced some of the hurdles when it comes to improving education. Today, we're so fortunate. We're going to take a deeper look at how decisions are made inside of the school district and hopefully answer some of the questions into how taxpayer money is being spent. To do this, I'm joined by our wonderful Clark County School District Superintendent, Dr. Jesus Jara. And so, shame on Dr. Jara, you were late. I can't believe you.
I was. I apologize. I think I brought a pass with me, so I am sorry, Mayor, for being late.
Where were you? What were you doing?
Well, actually, I was in a bond oversight committee just looking at how our bonds are spent and then looking at our facilities and our growth, our renovation of our buildings. So, we had a lot of things on the agenda, and it was important for me to be there this afternoon.
Which is a really good segue into everything.
Yes, it is.
You came in here, this is now year number
1.5. I'm 16 months in. 16 months in the job.
And
We're going into my second year.
You look very healthy. There are no circles under his eyes. And he's smiling. And the color of your skin, everything, you just look healthy. So it must be a marriage made in heaven.
Yes, it is. I love the community. I love the city of Las Vegas. I love Clark County School District. It's a great opportunity to be here. We have a lot of work. Long term, this is a marathon. I keep saying this is a long-term plan. I love it here and just excited to be here in the school system. I wake up every morning loving my job every single day, so thank you.
So are you getting a full 8 to 10 hour night or what?
6 to 7 hours a night, but we got a lot of work but it's a great community, so I'm excited.
Well, we're delighted that you've come here, and I know it will figure in how to get in your prior employments and what you were doing and how they compare, because you came into a school district. Are we still ranked as the 5th largest in the country?
Yeah, the 5th largest in the country here, and I always remind people and folks that we're also the 4th largest rural district in the state of Nevada as well. So we have a very diverse population of students. So, we're about 318,000 students as they're still trickling in from our projections. So.
Well, as we look ahead, and we've become this mecca for Major League sports, and we only see ahead that that's going to grow. And all you have to do is drive around the Southwest and drive around Henderson, actually even into our Northwest, and you see this enormous number of apartments, to say nothing of housing. What are the projections, do you feel, coming in the next couple of years? Is there discussion as to that?
Yeah, we're looking at the potential growth, but we're still making up for the past lack of funding in the bond oversight, which was really a good conversation, because what do we do with our current money and how do we expand our buildings, because we are still so overcrowded.
And you have old buildings too.
We do. So we're going into a little bit of a different strategy, and I'm so excited if I can really share with you.
The floor is yours. Yeah. People want to hear what's going on.
So the bond oversight just really approved 2 CTAs, which is our magnets. One in the city of North Las Vegas because of the equity component.
Oh, Mayor Lee is going to be just beyond himself with that.
He is, and then the other one in the city of Henderson, as well.
They
so
too.
Opportunity. So we're looking at it as a whole. But the one that I'm really, excited there because it's going to provide our kids, our children, as I remind folks, is the opportunity and the equity for some of these phenomenal programs. The other piece is the one that, the school system. We bought the old Gorman High School building right on Maryland Parkway, and we tore it down. And now they just approved an expansion of dollars so we can build, a 612 middle school, high school building really around workforce connections and workforce opportunities, because there's so many jobs here in this community where our kids can graduate high school and go right into the workforce. So we're looking for partnerships to come in, the labor unions and all that.
Absolutely. So, unions are untouched, and they really need to be more heavily involved in it, not from their perspective, but teaching all these young people. I don't care if they go on and get a PhD. If they become an electrician or a plumber, they'll have jobs up and down the street or throughout the apartment complex.
And absolutely, and this is where we're looking at the possibility of building something together and also with workforce connection, so everybody in the entire community can wrap their arms around our kids and possibly graduate high school and go right into the workforce. So the vision that I have, so now the Bond Oversight Committee just approved it, and now it comes before the board because my trustees, the 7 board members, are the ones that have that final approval. So I'm really excited in the direction we're going.
Are you using in this, is your vision then to take both sides where the facilities were as well as the parking on the other side of Maryland, or just the area where the buildings
Just
were?
the building, that's a property that we own, so it's just going to be that that component. But you know, the potential could be also more than just an 8-hour building. It could be maybe adults can come in and use it for certification.
Brilliant.
So I have the vision, you know, that's big and broad. Now, how do we then get staff to get into the details and the programs that will really help into this entire community?
But as a parent, I look at it and I think my children, of course, grown, and they have 3 of the 4 of them went all the way from K through 12 in the public schools, our system. How many students? This is very attractive, and how do you see students applying to get in?
Well, this, you know, it's going to be about 600 kids right now. You know, it's going to be a small place. You know, and these are the questions that we just don't have. Is it a magnet? Is it just for the neighborhood? You know, these are things that we'll start getting into the program. Do we provide transportation? It becomes a magnet. I think the interest is there. Is how do we, that, you know, the first step was approving the spend.
Great
now
idea.
we'll get into the details of this program. So we, you know, it could be a magnet. It could be just for the neighborhood. We don't know yet, but I think.
Are you going to reach out to the public and for their ideas? I mean, obviously, we feel in the city we're using your money, and obviously you're using public money too. So getting the input from the public as you go forward. Is this called something? Does it have a name yet?
Not yet. This was the first approval, approving the budget. So now we start the planning. Now we start the process, and I think getting the industry as well. You know, because I don't want to start putting programs in place that our kids will graduate and not get into, you know, won't have a job. So I think it's just, you know, this is forecasting 5 years out, because what are the jobs here? So
I'm full of ideas. That's the only reason my family loves me. And of course, you'll offer summer programs where students then maybe can take a summer, I don't know, learning entry into apprenticeship in the unions.
Absolutely.
Or something, so they can gain a skill already and get on a pathway.
Absolutely, and that's my goal. I mean, my goal is that when you look at, when you graduate from high school, we give you a diploma, you have a job.
Yes.
A high skill, high paying job.
Awesome.
That is, to me, the vision of what we should be doing in the K-12. You talked about, you know, you just talked about the world-class entertainment city, you know, sports. What I want and what I envision for us is to be that world-class school system, and I think we can do that. We can get there.
But it's innovation. I mean, to me, that's it. And with Las Vegas forever known as a town where always there's change and activity and forward thinking and getting out over your skis, this sounds like a fabulous idea. And so I gather then you will be sitting down with union leaders, and whether they're union leaders of the theater or union leaders plumbing and drywall painters, everything. That's a step in this process.
Absolutely, it's got to be critical. You know, a year ago I put a summit together with our labor unions. You know, I brought Sheet Metal, Local 88, I brought Local 872, you know, I brought everybody else in the room, Workforce Connection, you know, Commissioner Kirkpatrick. We were all there, and the city of Las Vegas was also represented, and said, what is it that we need for our kids? And this was, you know, we started with a campaign, because I think the other conversation that we need to have, you know, everybody thinks that you need to go to college to be successful, and that may be the path for some. But we have so many of our kids, that don't go off to college, that we need to get them ready for the workforce.
Without question. I mean, I think I can recall back in the late 70s, early 80s, talking to visitors from out of state about how are we preparing our young people for the workforce. And one of the biggest problems was the Clark County School District was continuing to slide down. We were building buildings, but we weren't bringing in quality teaching. There were so many holes in the process of getting children ready to work. So I just think this idea is great, and hopefully when you do this, there'll be an announcement of a name so people can get involved.
Absolutely. We'll get the entire community behind this. You know, this is a very exciting project.
In a nutshell, which is very difficult because we only have an hour, though I'm sure all of you would love to watch and hear him go on and on, the challenges that faced you as you put your hat in the ring to be the superintendent of the Clark County School District. Where are you with your challenges as far as what you are committing to that you feel you're making progress with?
Yeah, no, and actually, you know, well, the academic component is usually, you know, it's normally what some of the things that we're seeing now, and I'll tell you, I'm very excited in something that we're moving ahead in the coming weeks. It's really we're looking at, because as I've seen the numbers on equity and access, and opportunities for our minority students and really access to high academic programs. We have seen that there's been a gap. Kids that have not had access to this program. So we're rolling out, we changed our magnet criteria for the secondary schools. So we have top-notch magnet programs, but not every student has access to them. There's been barriers. So we are eliminating all the barriers for the programs, and my team, the team has been doing a phenomenal job in communicating that throughout our principals. So in the new magnet criteria, we have changed and eliminated some of these barriers. So we're hopefully in the next process that we're going to see a change in what our magnets look like and give more access to our students, our minority and underserved students. So that is exciting because it's something that needs to happen for our kids. You know, so that's number one. The academic programs, you know, our principals have been doing a great job, and our teachers, you know, and we have moved forward this year in investing in professional development, because we know that it's very clear, Mayor, that it's that classroom teacher. How do we provide support for our teachers? So we're investing in professional development, job-embedded professional development. We're also giving them the tools, the assessment tools, some of this other curriculums to help them do their job, and investing in our building principal.
In these new magnet schools that you're establishing this new criteria and having a lot of knowledge developed over the years in education and knowing young people. When you bring in young people that don't have the same level of experience or of the skills yet, but have the aptitude and the desire, you do not want to hold up these youngsters that are at the top, that have already been reaching for the star, motivated. So now you bring in a group of people who have the same aptitude and ambition, but don't have the skills. So how are you doing this? Are you doing it through a individual support system to bring the student up to the level so you're not holding the top down?
Right, so and I'm so happy you mentioned that, because it's not about lowering the standards.
No.
It's about raising the bar for all students, and then providing the support for our kids, and then also providing the support for our teachers to help them. So we have wraparound services that we're going to then provide our building principals and our teachers, really around supporting our kids so they can reach, because they do have the aptitude, they have the grit, they have the resiliency. So it's how do we then help them and engage them in the classroom, and in some cases
it's backup. I mean, it has to be the individual support to each child that you can provide that, and that they can see the pathway. But again, to never lower the standards, but for everybody to be able to reach up higher, and they can do it if there's somebody there, not a click on a button. Because I love technology, but it's so impersonal. It is so impersonal. I'm going to get to that, I hope, about online learning and what the district's doing with that. As every day we find something new, and nobody knows where technology is going to be in 5 years. And so that's a whole nother conversation. Well, you may sleep here tonight, not with me, but I will be here, we'll continue that conversation.
No, and absolutely, Mayor. And I think one of the things that when you really look at where our kids are and how do we help them, you know, and then in a strategic plan that we have, Focus 2024, I'm calling out for 1,000 mentors.
I love it.
We need adults in our campuses to help our kids.
If I'm alive, count me in.
Absolutely. Well, you are.
2024, where are we? We're not at 2020. But it's so important, anybody that's watching that really has an interest or a skill, there will be a way that you'll be able to contact the district and find
On
out
our
about the
website.
program on the website.
Absolutely. It's to find mentors, because our kids need somebody else. They need a caring adult to help them. And I think, our teachers do a great job. Our schools, they do a phenomenal job. But this is where I'm calling the entire community to come in and help us.
Well,
We
and
can't
of
do
course,
the job
so
alone.
many of these youngsters come from the more challenged,
Yeah.
older areas of our wards 1, 3, and 6, but they are the older areas, and there are also newer areas where
Right.
people from out of the country are coming in here to seek jobs and love the 24-hour
Yeah.
involvement. Plus, we now have all these support people from the sports that are going to be coming in, to say nothing of those who are support fans,
Yeah.
and there are more children there. But I do know, I saw that the NSPF, the Nevada State Performance Ratings, came out,
Yep.
and you got you received 98 Clark County school districts receive ratings of 4 and 5.
Yeah, we had an improvement over last year, so we're excited about that. Again, I can't really congratulate our teachers enough and our building principals who did a phenomenal job in really looking at the, not where I want to be, but as you know, continuous
It'd be
improvement
boring
always.
if it's where it is.
Exactly,
Right.
you always get better.
Right.
But I think it was really important to celebrate the 98 schools. We had some schools that made some tremendous jumps and increase from 3 to 5 star.
We have 350 some schools,
We
don't
do. We do 360 schools, and I think 98. Well, and then I go back to the Focus 2024 and the goals that we have, Mayor. That in 5 years that all of our schools will be 3, 4, and 5. And I think we can get there, and I think we can do it. So
I know we'd love that down here. It's interesting because over the many years of Goodman's as mayors, we've talked about this at length, how the city would love to have a better input into the schools. Of course, we're supportive always,
Well, you are.
and our close relationship, and we do support with SafeKey and different programs. But the reality is, it's interesting to me, I don't know the changes in funding, but for years we've been in $5,500, $5,700 per student. I read some information this past weekend in the New York Times, I think it was, that Philadelphia's allocation per student is $18,000 or beyond. I know as we travel the whole state of Nevada, which you have been doing, there's a definite discrimination of who's getting the funding and how, and I know that's a big piece, and you're one person, and here we are with a legislature that doesn't meet every year.
Right.
In fact, we're one of 4 states.
I know.
4 states where our legislature meets every other year. How can we get anything done?
right.
And especially with assembly persons only elected for 2 years.
Correct.
And so we have all these new people that you have got to get to know and explain the case.
Right.
But as you look to the funding of $5,700 a student, I don't think you can get a babysitter for that amount a year, to be perfectly honest.
No, you're right, and this is some of the things that were shocking when I came in,
Yes.
and when I looked at it before I took the job, but when you look at the 5,700, you say Philadelphia. I was with the superintendent from Boston, and he gets 23,000 per student. So when you really look at the investment, and this is, but we're moving in the right step. I believe in the right direction. Now we have a new weighted funding formula that was adopted this legislative session, and I know that Dr. Hibbler is on the commission.
Yeah,
so,
and she's wonderful.
So we're excited.
And passionate.
I know she is, and she's a great partner. I just
And
wanted
smart.
Oh, I know she's a great partner. You let her know that I really count on her leadership and support.
I'm sure
there.
she's watching.
She
I hope
is.
you're watching.
I hope you're watching, Dr. Hibbler. But I think I think this is the start where now we will get our fair share in the state of Nevada. And then hopefully the legislature will fund it in 2021. But I feel hopeful. I had great conversations with the governor and with the speaker, about a month ago. And this is one of the things that we need to, if we're going to invest in our kids, right? And I know that CCSD and we have to do our part. We're being better stewards of the taxpayer money. And I think this will be something, the start of something great for us moving forward.
Well, we all know that people come up with the greatest of ideas.
Yeah.
And it always boils down to where's the money.
Correct.
Now, do you have an idea of, in Boston, you said you visited with a superintendent, 23,000 per student.
Yep.
Where's that money coming from? And this isn't Canada where you're paying, your annual income tax at above 30%.
Well, there's various. I mean,
What are they doing that we're not doing?
They levy, property taxes is one of the things that they do there, and then that's, and then they have other taxes in the state of Massachusetts for education.
But they're a healthy community,
They
too.
They are.
So here we are, and it's very interesting. For the number of years I have had a position on the board of directors at the Las Vegas Convention and Visitors Authority. In 1995, there was, out of the pie of money that comes in from the room tax, there was zero allocation for education. Out of all the money from room tax in 1995, nothing allocated to education. Either 96, 97, they began to take a slice of the pie and allocate it to the state education, also post-secondary. And as of a year or two ago, it was 39 cents of every single dollar that was allocated to capital expenditure, building buildings, which don't teach, but building buildings, and also now hardware of technology is considered a capital investment, which of course it is.
It is.
And so we wonder, as you came in here, and it was so exciting to me personally, because of the visions you had and still have and the improvements you're making, but knowing what you were jumping into here. So here we are with this bucket of money. It's much like busing. I don't know any child who learns by riding a bus. And I think you have, and you just,
No, go ahead. I think I know where you're going.
1,800 buses.
We do.
And each bus probably costs about $300,000. That's probably minimum, because I know at the school that I was part of, I remember those big buses. Then you have to pay for the maintenance, upkeep, cleaning, the gas or battery, and then you have the bus driver, who's a member of the Clark County School District, who then gets PERS and salary, and so and then you have to have somebody monitoring the technology and figure out the logistics and the bus routing. And so if you take that money, and I don't know where in Boston, for example, or Philadelphia, how you do that. I remember as a child riding the public school system with passes. But that money, if you could get that money back, or some of it.
Yeah, I think it would be an opportunity. We looked at, and I'll back, if I can back up, Mayor, because I think you bring up a great point. One of the things I did last year, the Council of Great City Schools, which has Boston, Philadelphia, it has Clark County as part of a member district. There's 74 urban school system of America that were members of this organization.
And enormous, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as well?
We're number 5, yes. Miami, New York, and LA and Chicago. And one of the things that they came in and did an operations review of all my business side of the house. One of the things they noted is that we are the lowest funded urban school system in America. And we knew that, but they looked at opportunities. They gave me some recommendations of opportunities for some cost savings in our operations.
Are you allowed to share any of
Yes,
that?
absolutely.
Please,
one of the things that we're looking at, and actually we're doing a pilot, go back to the buses, in Spring Valley High School, we're piloting with the RTC, where our kids now have a pass instead of driving a bus, to see how that works. Because, as you know, I mean, in the city of New York, I was there one time, and
my city, for those of you who are watching, I was born and raised there until I came out here to Nevada.
And my wife and I, we were visiting, and we're getting on the subway, and you see the kids that are riding the sub going to school.
Yes.
And
passes.
With passes.
Yes.
And it was Boston's the same way, using public transportation. So we have a small pilot with the RTC.
Now,
right now. It started this year. Spring Valley High School, the principal, is piloting it there. There's about 87 kids.
Oh, am I going to watch that?
But these are things that we have to do differently, to then move money from the business side of the house into our classrooms to help our teachers to do some things. One of the other things with our facilities as well, I brought in a new chief facilities officer as well from, it was able to steal, don't tell Jim Murin, but we stole him from the Bellagio. He was running, he was vice president there, and now he's with me, and he's doing a fabulous job in energy conservation and doing things that we can then save in the operations to then drive more money into our classroom. So all these things that we're implementing now will start paying dividends in a year and 2-3 years from now.
Well, I do also have a spot on the RTC, so it's fascinating to me, but we know this here. As Uber and Lyft and other independent transportation services come online, which they will continue to do, there's certain positives. Obviously, you get more people in the workforce, more people making money, more people able to support their families, and so on. But the reality, if you just think about the car rental business, or you think about public transportation, obviously that's got to impact. So the sense is, in trying to find ways to fund our students, having the money follow the student rather than the facility. I mean, we have to do that too. Safety is always number one.
It is.
And so is the pilot program that you have in Spring Valley for a high school student first?
Correct. It is.
We are not in the middle school
level. No, just in the high school. And there's about 57 students that took advantage of it. We're going to continue to monitor, and then hopefully we can expand it to other where it's feasible for the students to use public transportation to get to our schools.
Right. Well, I think of the money that would be made available by that. Certainly elementary young little people should not have that.
Correct.
Because, and the parents, if they work, it's hard enough to go to the bus stop to put your child on the school bus.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, to me, it's always about funding. And there's so many fabulous ideas out there. But the reality is we've got to pay for it.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be great if every child had free education through college and every other program. But it's impractical. How do you pay the employee?
Correct.
Which leads me to, what are you doing about attracting and, back up. Tell us a little bit about the almost strike. Where are you? How did that resolve? I know the governor had made a promise to our teachers of a 3.5% salary increase. And I thought, wow, that's great. First of all, it's not enough, but it's great, Governor, to be. And but how are you going to get that sold? So what happened? We know it didn't pass at that point.
No, it didn't. Happened? And worked with our teachers, and we settled the contract. I mean, we, after the potential strike.
Are we improving? You can't retain or attract a good teacher unless you pay them. And $5,700 a student allocated to the classroom doesn't do that.
No, there's not enough. And I think we were able to, come together and settle the contract. That we did change some language really around ways for us to then work together to improve our teacher practice, to invest in our teachers.
Weren't you a teacher?
I started as a biology teacher. I know how important a teacher in the classroom is.
And you've been on that end looking. So the need to tell people you're worth something to us, and we don't want you moving to some other state. We want you. We want you, the best teacher. We want you to come here, and we want you to stay there.
And one of the things that we need to really do for our teachers is really the working conditions. We need to, and this is where the long-term investment now and moving forward, Mayor, is to really lower class size. Because what I hear from teachers I hear from our parents, our class sizes are, one of the largest in the country. And I think that's where we need to then, the frustration. I mean, I go into classrooms with 40 students, middle school students. It adds to the workload for our teachers. So it's now, to me, it's how do we continue to work together with our partners in CCEA, our teachers union, to then lower class size, and then continue to give them the resources and supporting them. So, we were able to settle. We were proud, and the board approved the contract, as a matter of fact, last Thursday. And now we're, hopefully they get through that process, and we're sending our checks, and the new raises will be in their check in October.
Wonderful.
And move forward, and then now start working differently in how do we recruit, but then also retain them.
Right.
And so they stay in our classroom, especially where we have such a great need in this community for our students.
Well, and I know there are parents out there and students out there that are in some of the high schools, because I hear from them, where they don't even have enough books for enough of the students, because they have so many more students in the, even AP, advanced placement classes. And so, you know, the fault is looking back, how did we get here with the enormous growth? But then slowly, in this, crawl before you run, but you have to kneel before you get to the point that you can even crawl. To make sure that we're planning well and can see the increments we're going to add. Because having sat with John Villardita on the education committee that Senator Roberson had started to have the discussion, it really does always boil down to the dollar. So one of the things that, and you and I had talked before, and I know your passion is there, but the process in Nevada, or at least for the Clark County School District, is that you report to a board of trustees.
I do. As a superintendent, you know, our balanced governance, our governance model here in the state of Nevada, there's 7 elected board members that hire the superintendent. And I work for the 7 board members. And we have
how many are new these past 2 years?
So we have 3 that are new, that were newly elected onto the board. And now we have, in 2020, and one of the things that in the state of Nevada, there's term limits, so they have 12 years on the board. And in 2020, there's 4, 3 that are term limited, and then 1 that is, you know, up for re-election.
So in the organizational structure, though, and correct me, please, my understanding is the board of trustees is the power. They, in turn, hire the superintendent.
Correct.
And then you are in charge of all the planning and everything.
And the management
but you
of the
have,
organization.
right, the management. But if, in fact, there's something of a magnitude, you have to get the permission from this board of trustees.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, so the bond oversight just approved, makes some recommendations, and now I bring that forward to the trustees for final approval. So that is the governance structure that we have in the state of Nevada and in Clark County. So they're policy governance. They set policy and direction, the strategic plan. I created the plan, the strategies, and how we're going to do all this great work. Now the board approved it in policy governance. So then now it's my job to execute on the strategic plan. But the board is the overall governance structure that hire me as the CEO and superintendent.
Which really needs to, and certainly knowing some but not all of our trustees, but knowing of them, because they are elected at large. Any well-meaning person who cares about education in Nevada can run for office and be elected.
Correct.
They may have zero knowledge, but maybe a wonderful public speaker with a wonderful demeanor that can get themselves elected, and yet may not have a similar vision or an understanding of education. Because it makes me wonder, as we go back to the 70s, 80s, when we were much higher up in the rankings overall and didn't have the same number of students in the district, how this, and I see that you really, it's much like the court system, to let the public decide who are federal or state judges in any formality, municipal court, justice court, whatever. Let the public decide, to me is, I don't think it works in the best interest of the program. You need people that have either had the experience, had the education, to be the ones to deal with education. So it must be very challenging, since you were a teacher.
I was.
Were your family in education too before?
No, my family was not. I'm the only one that decided to go in this great profession. Yeah, I love it. I loved it for over 25 years. And you know, like I said, I started as a teacher. I became an administrator, principal, and moved up the ranks. And I'll tell you, it's you know, when you really look at it, and that's the thing that I've been doing a lot of training with the board. You know, brought
Help
in
them,
to understand. You know, everybody's got a role. And I'm the executive, like I said, execute the strategy, and then they hold me accountable on the numbers and the results and the decisions that I make, but, you know, and bring recommendations to the board for final approval.
So you really have to educate some of the board and give them the history of why this is, in addition to visiting all the schools, organizing what the philosophy and vision's going to be for the district. I mean, it's really what has been but don't go there because I have a whole little question on that safety. To me, I mean, nobody will move to invest in, support an area that's not safe.
Right.
So safety is critical. I'm never putting my child on a bus if I don't think they're safe. I'm never putting my child in a school that's not first and foremost safe for that child. But holding that off for a minute, what do you think has or have been your biggest challenges this year besides the salary component and the teachers?
So my biggest challenge, I would say opportunity, if I can, because to me it was learning the legislative process here in the state of Nevada, right? And mayor.
And can you make a nice comment you learned?
Yeah, I learned. I mean, I like what I like to say was very open to folks that you see regularly. And as superintendent, in the 5th largest district, 70% of our kids who are here in Clark County make up the 70% of the student enrollment for the entire state. So I had really, building the relationships. I've worked in 3 different states: Massachusetts, Florida, and now Nevada.
And tell everybody what cities you worked in.
Yeah, Orlando, Miami, Springfield, Massachusetts, down in Key West as well. But it was very different here than in other places that I've been at. As you mentioned, we hear legislatures in session every 2 years. And I used to, when I was in Florida, I used to say, wow, how lucky that they're only every other year. And now I understand that we need to have every year because of I believe because of the ongoing opportunities and challenges that we face. So I think when you're really, so to me it was a learning experience. Right. And
both the people and the philosophy and how things operate.
Yeah. And then everybody has an opportunity for input in public school, whether you have the expertise or not. And to me,
it's a killer.
To me, is how do we then bring everybody along for the best interest of the school system, but relying on the expert, relying on the teachers that are in the classroom, our building principals, and then the district staff together to say, here's what we need to do and here's where we're going. And I tried to do that with our strategic plan, but then you have outside advocates that knew best. So I think to me was a learning experience, and I was, when you look at it, if you recall, when I was doing my strategic plan rollout, I came here and Dr. Hibbler helped bringing folks in because I wanted the community to have input.
Right.
And then, but you get up to Carson City, and then everybody has different opportunities or ideas. So that, to me, that was a little bit of I would say a growth opportunity this year.
One of the most beautiful things that I know I heard about you, which I had to believe because it was good. If I heard it bad, then you're wrong, and I don't even want to talk to you. But the reality is, if in fact you're in the maintenance of a building, a school building, the person, that information of what can be improved upon or what's not working in sustaining that building needs to be communicated from the people that are actually doing it.
Doing the work, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
And so to me, we love best practices, but this is Las Vegas. We are different. So to take the best practices, but you need to hear from the people that are actually in the classroom, the people that are actually the maintenance people in the building, and get that input. So not only do you have to collect that when you go to the legislature, you have all these new legislators that are in there, and they don't know any of it.
Yeah, and that was, to me, that was one of the things that, bring others along with you to help me. And so we'll be better prepared in 2021.
Right. Well, hopefully you'll join in, because I really have been on this bent for the longest time to make sure that we work to get, and which has to go to a plebiscite, that has to go to the vote of the people, to get our legislature to meet annually. Very simple, 1 year down here, 1 year up there. But at least we have an opportunity to address some of the needs, no matter what they're involved in.
Absolutely.
So the things that you're doing, anything innovative that you have in your plan to attract teachers from around the country that are of the highest quality, to be with our highest quality members?
Well, across the country, we continue to send our recruiting team out there to go and, and obviously celebrate Las Vegas and to really get an understanding.
Do you work and tell them? I mean, you've been through the process and you've been in the classroom. As you have learned in the 16, 18 months, whatever, but obviously did your research before. This team that you're sending out, did you help inform them and teach them and tell them what you're looking for?
Oh, absolutely. We I've been able to do that and share, and then continue to share the great. I mean, this is a phenomenal city. I love it here. And this is, to me, what we have to continue to sell, and then sell them on the classroom experience and then all that. So, I told you about my facilities. I was able to steal from MGM Grand, their chief of HR now works for me. Really get that business side, but business aspect, and now recruiting teachers, but then also maintaining them, because we do a really good job of recruiting. Is how do we keep them? And these are the things that I think we need to start looking at.
And what is the plan for that? I mean, here I am, let's say I've been 12, 14 years in a middle school teaching English, let's say, and really feel terrible because I haven't gotten that much needed raise and haven't had even though I have a wonderful principal. What is the district able to do to help incentivize me to, well, yes, you do have problems. We are working to help you, but here are some things that we can suggest.
Well, I think the working conditions, and really finding ways, strategic ways, or carefully, looking at how we can provide the resources. When we look at, how do we give them
some examples?
Give them the tools.
Please?
We just the board approved last Thursday. We have a new balanced assessment system. As a school system, because in the past teachers were creating their own tests and it just wasn't working. So now everybody's going to use the same assessment for kids to progress monitor, right? So then now we're bringing professional development to support the teachers in how to use the data. That in the past, teachers were trying to figure all of this out on their own. So now we're bringing in partners that are going to work with us to provide support systems, job embedded support systems during the school day for the teachers, because teachers just want to get better. They love their kids and they want to get better. So we're bringing some of these systems to help them that in the past they had to go back, and it's a little bit right now, but it's so they see the writing on the wall that things are getting better slowly. Now we need to get more than 5,700 per student, but these are some of the first steps that we're putting in place right now.
We hear frequently from the public, why doesn't the school system, first of all, what happened to the marijuana money?
Yeah.
Is there an answer from the authority?
Well, this legislative session, it was, this session in that just passed, it was put into the DSA. But, I also want to, that DSA, that funding formula needs to be fixed. And I think this is part of the problem, because not all of it gets here.
Right.
It gets divided across our partners across the state of Nevada.
Right. And I had people call in all the time, we run across the border to buy lotto tickets. Why can't the casinos sell the lottery tickets so they won't feel an objection? They'll sell them, they'll get the benefit. But why can't we get the millions of dollars that come into a state and specifically direct it to education? I mean, the passion in the public to fund it somehow isn't heard.
Right, and I think this is one of the reasons that I just created a parent advisory committee.
Wonderful. To
help me become ambassadors of the school system. So we have a parent and community, we have now teacher, Superintendent's Advisory Committee. I want to hear from the teachers, because even though I was a teacher and I still remember grading papers on the weekends and I still remember lesson plans, but it's been many moons ago when I was doing that. So I want to hear from what the teachers are feeling now. So I've created some of these advisory committees to come in and help me.
Because I know from being involved in education when our school was working, and this was even in the public school system, with the children learning to print the Danielian, add numbers, and wait your turn. Now today with technology and these laptops, to stand at the front of a room with a whiteboard or whatever you're using,
right,
and you look out at your 32 students whose laptop is open, if in fact they have one, or they're just using their, and you look at their faces and try to read, are they really on my lesson plan,
right,
or are they buying a new pair of sneakers? And so very difficult unless the teacher stands behind the class
right,
to teach. So are we ever going to be going back to the mere learning how to write so they could write a thank you letter or something?
I don't know, Mayor. I think
and
I think
that's a huge budget.
It is, and I think the time has passed us with our kids who are living on their phones. And the other day I was somewhere and I see a 3-year-old and all they're doing this and they're on their phones. And
my husband can't do that.
Well, today I was trying to figure out how I can look at my own phone and find my own phone number. So I had this a younger principal, millennial. He's like, "Here you go, superintendent. I'll help you." Right? But our kids are so they're so far advanced. So we have to
in technology
they are,
but they are impatient. And I have a grandson who's 12 years old, and he loves to draw. Caricatures, cartoons. And if you'd put your hands back up like you're with your computer, he has drawn a picture where there are only thumbs, and they're enormous.
Right.
And he said in 200 years, that's all it's going to be on people. They're going to have, these 2 big thumbs and no other fingers, because that's all they use.
That's all they use. I know. This is how they're communicating.
And I thought, isn't that wonderful? That is brilliant. It's true. Yeah. Or you go out socially for dinner with your wife, because unless you have a very young wife.
No,
she
knows.
We
went to high school together.
Okay. So she understands that when you're taking me to dinner, we're going to talk.
Yeah.
You go out today and you sit anywhere at Pizza Kitchen or somewhere, and nobody's talking.
No.
They're all on their cell phone.
They're all on their cell phones. And, I'll tell you, I was watching when in college, my daughter's in college, and now she'll FaceTime me because she's away in school. So she'll FaceTime me. She's on her phone emailing, and then she's got on Google Hangout her girlfriend who is in her other dorm. And there's 3 conversations going on. And I said, how do you do this? How do you then do your homework?
Yeah, right.
And this is the new age.
And how do you read?
Yeah.
What happened to reading?
Right. And I still have to go in and read and be able to mark my book.
That's good. I'm with you. But that's older. My daughter tells me, "Mom, you are just like a dinosaur here. You've got to get with it." And I said, "I know, but you don't know what it's like to be able to just touch the page and be able to flip back without having to enter another program to look at 2 or 3 things at once."
Correct.
So anyway, but there are advantages. I know it's the greatest tool ever. But I just took a quick peek because I just love to be with you and talk with you and hear what you're doing. That's so exciting for Las Vegas and what's to come. It's just we're so large and there's so many areas that need improvement. And it is. It's sit up first, then get on your knees, crawl, then walk
marathon.
And run. It is.
I said to principals today, guys, I said, this is a 26-mile run. And we're on like half a mile into this
you've made some good movement.
We've made, and they all laughed. Right. And I said, this is the first half a mile into the mile, but this is a long, and that's what I said to her. I said, I'm committed. I am a long-term, committed here to be with this community. I love it. My kids are.
Don't ever throw in the towel.
Absolutely not.
Somebody aggravates you.
Absolutely not. I love this job. I really do, and it's a great community. Great kids. Our kids have wonderful opportunities and a great potential. So thank you.
Well, I love the youngster that you who told you he wanted to take you to class. with the
Absolutely. I was telling you when I kept him a little late, and he said, "Oh, well, give me a pass with your superintendent." And I signed it for the teacher a little bit. He wanted some clout to get into class late.
and you did bring it in.
Absolutely.
But all right, now let's go into, first of all, I know, what's the population that we have? I know we've got about 62% of our population is lunch money.
Yeah, 62%, a little bit
free
over
lunch.
that. 63% free and reduced lunch. That means there's food insecurities at home.
Yeah.
We have schools, Mayor, that we serve breakfast, lunch, and supper.
And I'm so glad we do that.
Absolutely, we
But
do.
I know the population because I've visited schools, and the principal will always tell me, Mayor, we have such a strong population of homeless children.
15,000 of our kids are homeless.
15,000 of our students are homeless. I mean, to me, that it's incredible.
Mm-hmm.
And then how do, because there are people out there that want to help, and where do you go to help, and what's the proper thing to be doing? Is there a lifeline on the district website
There
if you
is.
want to help?
Absolutely. CCSD.net in our communications community engagement office. They can look into where they can mentor. They can call their school as well, but we can connect them to wherever they want to be. I mean, again, 1,000 mentors. I want 1,000 mentors by 2024.
So that's so important to remember, because it is so critical in life that you help somebody somewhere, and children are just so wonderful to be, but to have 15,000 young people that are homeless. So whether they're sleeping on the sidewalk with their parents or parent, or in a car, or whatever,
couch.
and therefore couch or in
Couch surfing, where
somebody's-
they're going from couch to couch until they, yeah, absolutely.
and to say nothing of food.
Absolutely.
So it moves us on really so significantly, because it is the most important thing also is, I mean, this is a very difficult time in the history of this world, in this country, and how the few, I know I did a little study and asked my staff to take a look, since 1966 and the shooting at the UT Austin, University of Texas Austin, up on the tower, where some fool got up and just took a gun and started shooting at random.
Right.
To 2018, there are 166, 180 perpetrators in a country that's over 320 million. 180, say 200 perpetrators that have created such havoc and such pain for us all. And of course, 1 October is coming up. The children, we all remember, and maybe you were the perfect son that did nothing to
Don't
upset
talk to
your
my mother.
parents.
Don't call my mom.
Okay, good.
Mayor.
I'm so glad you were healthy. And when I think of my youth and my husband, when he tells me about things that he did, and then we have 4 children, and so sometimes I'd close the eye and look. It's, it's a very difficult time, probably anywhere from 10 forever, but when somebody's having issues. And so we're in this terrible time, and what are the things that you feel comfortable, what are the things that are moving in the right direction with the district to keep our children safe?
Well, no, and that's
best you can do.
Yeah, no, and absolutely, there's no guarantees.
I mean, 180 perpetrators out of 340 whatever million we are in this country.
No, and we've taken steps, with our police department, our CCSD police department.
Now, you have private-owned security,
We
or
have
do you
our
have
own-
Metro?
No, we have our own Clark County School District police officer. I have a chief that reports to me, my chief of police.
Does Metro, because Metro works all over the world with FEMA and everything else, in their training, does that penetrate
Yes.
into, so they take training with
We
Metro?
work together with Metro
Okay.
and all the municipalities as
Okay.
well. So we do that as well, Mayor. One of the things that, we do random searches on our campuses across.
Do our students
for
know
our
that's
yes,
going to be?
Absolutely. Well, they're randomly selected, so they don't know.
Good. No, but they know it will
They know.
happen.
Oh, they know it
good.
will happen.
All
And then,
schools know it will happen.
secondary schools, middle schools, and high schools, we do that. The other one that we do, when I got here, we purchased 4 canine dogs to do firearm detection. So we have
Wait a minute. How many schools do we have? 300 and
60.
and we have 4 dogs.
We have 4 dogs that they're not housed. They're canine officers, so they go around the entire city and the entire school
So middle
system.
and middle and high
Middle
school.
and high school, and they'll just show up. I mean, I was at a school visiting, and here they showed up without even notice to our principal. They just show up and do the random searches of the lockers and then also the book bags. So it's just to keep the kids and the student advisory that I have for my high school, the students really appreciate. They said that to me because they said, "Superintendent, great move because it keeps us on our toes, right? Our kids.
Good.
It keeps our kids on our toes because we don't know." We had one of our canine officers found a weapon on our campus a couple weeks ago.
Wow.
So these
All right,
are
that's
steps.
one thing.
These are steps that we're taking, and obviously
You're doing a see something, say something.
we
I'm
have the
sure.
Safe Voice program that's statewide, and that's what I tell the kids. The campaign is you see something, say something
Good.
to an adult,
Right.
and then we also
Yeah,
have
because you don't want to accuse people who are hyper and
correct,
crazed about everything.
correct.
Just reporting innocently, and we've seen enough of that going on in this country now. People accused, regardless of whether they're guilty, if they've gone through the
So
legal
it gets
system.
reported, and then we do the investigation, and that's another one. And then the other thing that we, which is I think one of the most important components, is the mental health. Is the mental health support for kids that are experiencing some of these adult issues, and they're trying to deal with some of these situations.
Okay, now there's
for
a
our
very
kids.
big, I'm going to have you back because I just got a signal from out there in the wild, dark area that we're running out of time. I really want to continue the
Absolutely.
safety.
Whenever
so
you need
as soon
me
as
here.
you stop playing with the bonds and can find a little
Absolutely,
breather,
Mayor.
and this is only water, and our superintendent hasn't even had a drink.
Yeah.
We're at Oscar here, that would be Bombay Sapphire, but it's not. I really want to talk about it because I am absolutely 1,000% know this is an adult problem. And
It is.
something's wrong in the home, and how we're involving the adult conversation, what to look for in their children. I have known children who at the signs of 3rd and 4th grade indicate that there are some real issues here.
Absolutely.
And the parent needs to know. And so, will you come back?
Absolutely, Mayor.
And
I'd love
really,
to come
and
back.
could you create sort of a litany of things we should discuss?
We can do that.
And can we do it sooner rather than
Yes.
later? We're at the beginning of the school year. I want to talk about the adults. I want to talk about the school district, the physical plant. What are we doing? Do we have buttons in places which will be abused by some youngster that doesn't understand? But do we have technology placed in the schools? How about getting in and out of
Security,
the school?
yep.
All of that.
We can bring
Will
all
you
of
make
that. Absolutely.
and
We'll have a list and we'll get it.
and
Yeah,
can we do
that.
something next week if the city
If this-
can free the studio up, that we can continue totally involved in this safety issue?
Absolutely.
And then 1, parenting, 2, children. My 4 children, I know I can ask them, what do you think about this, this, and this? And they'll say, I knew he had problems back when. But it's different today.
And that's what we have to help our parents.
Okay, I can't talk to him anymore. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you at home for watching. We will see you next time for another episode of Hello Mayor. Have a great day, everybody, and thank you for watching, and he will be back.